Here we go. Let's start with e4, Julius 666. I guess you can play that. It's the Peart's defense played against e4. What do I want to do? Could do a fianchetto as well on this side. Probably not on this side. Or I just could continue with d4. That's like the most normal move, but probably what black is expecting. Let's just stop the pin. So this pawn is securely defended. Develop the bishop. I guess he'll play e5, yeah, as soon as I bring the bishop out to that square. But the bishop doesn't have to stay here. Let's take. I have an idea to do something different here. This is a typical setup where black is going to attack with f5 and go after the king side here. So how about I just castle queen side? Get an opposite side castling position. Trade off his dark squared bishop. We'll wait and see. I don't need to trade it if he's not going to play f5, but he does play f5, so that's what I will do. So I guess this knight is okay here. But it's kind of pinned there. Okay, now he unpins, right? And defends this pawn. Adds an extra defender there. But there's there's this e6 square available for the knight, with my bishop pointing at it. That'd be a pretty nasty fork there. Queen, king, and rook. So yeah, he unveils the bishop. I could play the check anyway, even though he's attacking my bishop. This is a check. The king moves, I take the queen. He takes here, and I'll just move my queen. So he has to take, and then I'll take back with the bishop. Let's go ahead and do that. And then the bishop can retreat back to b3 here, if need be. Yeah, I thought he might attack my queen. I hadn't quite figured out where the best square is, but yeah, not too many squares to choose from. I want to be able to take back with the rook here, so. Yeah, he chases my bishop out. I could take first and then retreat. If he tries to oppose on the, yeah, if he puts his stuff on the d file, I can oppose because the knight is supporting that square. So what kind of endgame is this? Is this good for me? How about if I start to take apart the pawns over here on the king side. With pawns on both sides of the board, and I have a bishop, this might be a good endgame for me. So at least I will not fear it. I don't know, I suppose I could have gone ahead and taken, because if he pushes that pawn again, I will just take it, but it's kind of a natural reaction to push that pawn to a4. And I was lower on time than my opponent, so sometimes you play quick moves. Not always at the right times, but... So I'm going to take on f5 and then get a passed e-pawn. And he says, no, I'm not. Are you sure? I was just wondering if the queen can be attacked there. Oh, I should have taken with... Oh, no, that was check. Right, I couldn't take with check because he took with check. But now he needs to do something about this. The only move to defend it that I see is h6, and I can play h4. Yeah, he's going to have trouble defending his king side here. And my knight is out of play at the moment, but the bishop and the queen are looking pretty good. He's caught up with me on time now. He had to slow down and think here. Looking for that counterattack. I'm probably a little weak on the dark squares. Let's go ahead and take. When I take here, it's going to be a double check if he doesn't move his king. And my bishop is looking at his knight. So, even now, this is a double check, right? So, he can't take my queen. He'll have to move his king. So, pawn takes pawn, check. King takes pawn, then I'll take the knight. So the king will go to the side here, or you can't go there. Could go, no, he can't go there because I'll take the knight. So, it has to go to the H file. Because he needs to keep protecting that knight. He resigned. I don't know if it's resignable at that point. Say he went here. Oh, let's go to the analysis board. Just a quick look. The king has to move, and he has to defend the knight, so he could go to one of these two squares. He can't go here, and if he goes here, then that interrupts the defense. But then it's mate. Okay, so yeah, that was resignable. I hadn't seen that all the way through. Anyway, let's see if we can get another game here. I was on kind of a losing streak there, so happy to get a win. I'll play a rapid game this time. Here we go. Let's try e4 again. That wasn't really an e4 game. The last game we played, that was more of a d4 game. Even though I started with e4, he went for this Pierce defense. Okay, Scandinavian. Let's take. And play d4. I think this is normal. Is that right? Or are you supposed to bring the knight out first? So how's this go? I bring the knight out to defend the pawn because it's under fire. He pins it. And then I attack the queen. Takes, I take. Oh no, he pins, I unpin. He takes, I take, hitting the queen. Queen takes pawn. I trade and then grab here. I don't like that so much. Could just defend this way. Yeah, now I can bring my knight out, or I could play pawn to c4 to chase the queen away. Pawn c4, I guess he would do the check anyway. Let's bring the knight out. It's a bit of an unusual setup for black in the Scandinavian, because usually they want the pawn on c6 where the knight is, so the queen goes here when it gets kicked, and then it runs back this way, or maybe stays on c7. But he just goes straight back, so that's okay. This is defended. We can pin that knight. Let's think about this. I pin the knight. He kicks my bishop. I drop back. He kicks it again. I drop back. And he can harass my knight. But this knight could go here. It's not a problem. Let's pin that knight. And let's develop my other knight and get castled. Oh, first I should check to see if this threat still works. Right, when I did the pin, I made a threat. I'm pinning this piece that I'm threatening to push the pawn. He's defended that with a knight and a queen, but I have a knight and a queen supporting it, so I can push. And he can't take. He can kick my bishop. That's really his only answer there. I take the knight. He takes the bishop. I take a pawn. Oh, I think this has got to be the right move. It's funny, yeah, you make a threat and you expect your opponent to respond to it. I do. When I make a threat, I expect my opponent to respond to it. And I sometimes get fooled when they don't respond. I just kind of assume they responded to it, and then I look at what their move is doing instead of saying, did they really respond to my threat? Yeah, so he took. So I can take here with check. Pawn takes, and then take again. That looks pretty good. Is there something better? I'll have 4 pawns against 2 on this side of the board. I'll have this really advanced pawn, and he'll have 4 pawns against 3 on this side, with the option of pushing in the center, because this pawn will be going over here. And I will have given up the bishop pair. So if I take with the pawn first, and he takes the bishop, that opens up the diagonal for his rook I mean, the file for his rook. So I take, he takes, I take again. Rook goes here, I guess, and rounds up the pawn. Let's take this way. And he can trade queens after that, but it'll just bring a rook to the center. Oh, it'll allow him to get a pawn here, but I think that's good for me still. Even if he wins this c-pawn. Yeah, so I was going to lift my rook up and prepare to double on this file here and gain a tempo on his bishop, which has to retreat. His knight can hop into this square maybe. But the knight is also defending d7 there. It might be nice if I were to play rook d7. Might be a fun thing to try. So anyway, I'm bringing my knight out. I'm ignoring this hop here because I want to get castled and I want to double my rooks there. I do have knight e5. Now this is interesting. Knight e5 hits the bishop, and it also looks at this d7 square. So the bishop controls that. And let's see, can I attack that bishop? Yes. But is it any good? I don't know. I mean, I can't attack it in a way that really sticks. Let's prepare, or let's start by doubling. See if he wants to castle. Yeah, so now let's bring my knight in. Knight to c5 looks interesting. He can play knight to e4 now. So knight c5 to, oh, he puts his bishop there though. Ah, because he wants to round up my pawn. That's logical. So why don't I take a moment to defend that pawn. The bishop is on e4. It looks like a good square for it, but it's taking up a square that the knight might rather have. I suppose you could play knight to knight to g4. Looks dangerous because of the fork, but it's hitting my bishop, so I can't play f3 and fork the two pieces. Can't play knight c5 anymore with this knight in the way. Ah, decides to go there. I guess I need to block. Ah, takes, okay. Now I can push forward. Ah, he's going to take the bishop. Still. Looks like that's the best course, right? Push forward here. Knight takes bishop, pawn takes. I could defend one or the other, defend the bishop or defend the pawn. Yeah, it's not, I'm not breaking through here. Yeah, let's force the issue. Unless he's got something else in mind. Kind of assumed his idea was to take my bishop in a case like this. Now, if he doesn't and moves the knight somewhere else, my next move will be f3, kicking the bishop off of this diagonal. I have control of this diagonal now if I have a pawn here and this pawn here. But I can't do that as long as his knight is here hitting my bishop. So that was why I decided to chase that knight away. Yep, he takes. Yeah, here's the point. So where can I go? I can go here. And if he takes my pawn, I'll take his pawn. I think that'll work. Hitting his bishop. I still would like to get a piece on the on that e7 square. It's been calling to me for a while, but his bishop is guarding it now. Okay, it's in case he attacks my rook, I want to be able to, attacks my knight, I want to be able to move it away without having to worry about defending this pawn. So it's a bit, my pawn structure is a bit ragged here. We'll see if we can do something about that anyway. Yeah, so knight to e7 here, he could take it, or I could pin it. That would be more dangerous, wouldn't it? There's no check there at the moment. Okay, just bring the knight around this way. This is interesting. So knight here, he doubles. Knight here, he kicks it. No follow-up. I think I need to get rid of one pair of rooks here. Yeah, maybe just bringing the king out was fine too. King F2 rather. If he takes my rook, though, I can take back with a pawn and get a pair of pawns there. So let's defend here. I can still take back with a pawn. Or I can take. See, if I attack it with the knight, what do you think he'll do? Take, pawn takes. And then move that rook. He did give himself some lift finally. Some Luft. So knight e2 or just take the rook. And knight d2 rather. And bring the knight forward. He can kick my knight again. I keep kind of forgetting these things. I can kick his rook. Say c5, king f3. Even if the rook stays, it goes here. I could play king g3. That might be a draw. Funny draw where I just chase the rook back and forth. Don't give him time to take my knight. Yeah. Well, the thing is, if I move the knight, he can take this pawn. So I guess maybe knight to d2, which is the other move I was considering. I guess that's a little more solid. Yeah, I can't quite get to a forking square. Right, if I could get my knight to this square, I would fork the rook and the bishop. But anyway, doesn't seem possible. Is he going to settle for a draw? He'll pick up some rating points if he gets a draw against me. But he might want more. But I can't afford to give up this pawn. With the bishop and the rook and the passed pawn, I think he would have a winning game there. I don't think I could hold that draw. Oh, you know, another idea. Oh, no, that doesn't work. I was saying I could push the pawn to shield, but of course he would take my knight, so that would not work so well. Okay, so he decided to back off. Let's drop back with the knight then. Attack this pawn. Opponent left the game. You can claim victory in 70 seconds. I'm going to wait and see if he comes back. There was no, yeah, he's back. There was no reason to give up at this point, although maybe he was annoyed that he has to defend this pawn. Well, he could trade and counterattack. I would attack here. Go for the end game. So he's kind of driving my king back. If I step forward, the rook can come here. Oh, he wanted to defend that way. Okay. Now what? How about let's activate this rook. I could also push this pawn onto a dark square. That might be useful. Knight here attacking the bishop might be useful at some point. Don't want to keep going back. Maybe I have to. Want to keep this pawn defended. Oh, I didn't keep that pawn defended. I say I want to keep that pawn defended, and then I don't. Oops. Well, I'm going to get this pawn, it looks like. Yeah, let's grab it. Now we can check. And get the rook in front of the pawn, but the rooks belong behind the passed pawns, right? Let's see if we can do something with this passed pawn. Okay, get my knight over just in time to stop it. I guess I can't do much with that passed pawn. Yeah, and he can do stuff like that. Is there a way to turn this around? Doesn't look good because he's got control of this square with the bishop and the rook, so just playing over there is pretty dangerous. So I could stop the pawn here, but he wins a piece, I guess. And he threatens to win the rook. Yeah, so he should do that. And I need to save this rook somehow. Because he's threatening check and take rook. So we could round up this pawn, I suppose. Hit his bishop and try and get my pawn going. He's got a pretty good blockade on it, though. It's tough. Tough to imagine that working. Interesting. Yeah, he can just keep pushing the pawn, I thought. I thought that would be fine for him too. I'm not sure why. Oh, he went there with the bishop because he was going to have to move it anyway after I took the pawn. Yeah, I'm not seeing any tricks here. Let's just finish the game. Let him play it out. Oh, oh, I forgot about that one. He has a checkmate here, if he spots it. Yep, he got it. Okay, well, good game by Alamzad. And so that's it for this session. I'll see you next time. Bye now.